I'm Alistair. I run a full stack web development agency. We also do data engineering. We've grown to 10 or 11 people now, mixture of full-time and part-time. We basically help businesses that are struggling with complicated internal tooling or spreadsheets, things that are really complex within their business, and then we simplify them. So our niche is helping businesses simplify their operations and building internal tooling to support their operations. I've been in BMI for 2.5 years. When I first started, I had essentially no business experience. I'd worked for a big energy company as an engineer and then worked for a tech startup. I do remember having a conversation in the early phases of not even knowing what qualifying a lead meant or was. And that was coming from a sales background at the startup as well. So yeah, I really came in super fresh to business. And then over the last couple of years have grown the business from essentially nothing to a team of 10. We've got 7 or 8 active projects at the moment, and I'm transitioning out. The business is still actually running itself, but I'm now transitioning out to focus on a physical kind of product, so starting another business at the moment. In terms of results, initially I was working full-time in my job at the time when I first joined BMI. Within the first month, got my first sale after 2 or 3 weeks. I think at the time that was only a few, that might have been $700-800. Rapidly added more sales and then was able to leave my job, I think probably a couple of months in, and then was then full-time on the business and then focused on growing the agency and have continued to grow since then. Revenue has fluctuated over time. By the end of the first year, we reached 20,000 per month at peak, which was 3 or 4 months ago. We were doing roughly 60,000 per month. There's various different phases and levels that the business has kind of gone through. With the support of BMI and the mentors, was able to continue to grow and get to a point where generating a pretty significant amount of revenue and keeping everyone employed and enjoying the work that they're doing. I came from a semi-technical background, so I worked as a solutions engineer, which is essentially a technical salesperson for a tech startup. So I had basic knowledge of tech, basic knowledge of sales, which is why I went into build a full stack development agency. I learned a lot about sales, which is surprising considering I came from a sales background. It made me realize that I really didn't have any sales experience. I learned how to qualify leads, learned how to copywrite, so to put together a high quality proposal that helps somebody realize that we're the right fit for them to build the tool or the product for them. Learn a lot about marketing. I think one of the other key things is how to hire, which is a skill that is pretty hard to, you don't get much exposure to that working for a big company. Typically you have a HR team that handles that, and it's probably one of the most important skills in growing a small business. How to qualify and then how to essentially systematize things within the business. So that could be setting up the sales process. So from generating a proposal, automating lead generation through to, and also qualifying the leads, then through to delivery. So how do you take a proposal and then convert that into a project plan, a work stream, a series of processes that keep the client happy, and then ultimately they get what they want, and then we also get paid, and then take them from concept through to a working product. And then the other process would be the kind of HR and hiring process. So how do you build a culture and a team that can deliver and repeatedly create a good outcome for the clients that we work with? So I learned from a lot of different people in BMI, incredible kind of range of different skill sets. From joining BMI, really from the start, there's a huge range of different instructors and experts in their field. And I think one of the key things about BMI is that those people have built their own agencies, often in the areas that you're trying to understand and learn. So there are expert instructors that run sales coaching agencies. You're learning sales from them, for the people that are teaching other businesses how to do their sales. There are people that have run or built huge tech agencies, AI agencies, marketing agencies. So when you're learning these skills, you're not just learning from somebody that also runs a similar business and is just a few steps ahead. You're learning from people that their whole business is focused on that area. I've learned a huge amount in marketing, sales, delivery, lead generation from people that are industry experts and have built businesses around being an expert in that area. In terms of future plans, so the agency currently is running itself. I've just got to the phase where we've, over the last 6 months, built out essentially a leadership team who are responsible for day-to-day operations. In the last couple of months, we brought on a couple of sales representatives and sales leaders. So kind of the next phase for the business is to have sales running by itself and then have the operations running by itself. And then at that point, I can step out and focus on kind of the next venture. And I've just started a robotics company. I'm using a lot of the lessons I've learned from BMI and in building the agency to start to scale up this business. And we've just taken some investment, ramping that up. BMI is for you if you enjoy solving difficult problems. If you want to run your own business and not answer to somebody else, and you have the initiative and the kind of drive to do that. And if you want to learn from some of the industry experts in all the areas that's required to build a business, and if you, it's essentially like doing almost like doing an MBA in business, but very practically focused in a very short time frame. I think coming through the BMI program essentially sets you up. First thing is you become independent of having to work for another company. And typically, well, for me, that was within a couple of months. I think some people that's even faster. Some people it takes a bit longer, but very quickly you can operate independently. You have freedom of your own time, freedom to learn what you want and to kind of focus on what you want to do. So for me, that was a huge benefit. So if that's important to you, BMI is a great way to accelerate that process and to learn how to run your own business. And then it sets you up for future businesses as well. I know for sure I've learned so many lessons from figuring things out and then also in being able to run a business and then also learning from the instructors and the resources and material within BMI. BMI is not for you if you are not particularly driven, if you think that you're going to be spoon fed and be able to just come in and start a business. You definitely have to have a passion and a desire to not take the easy path. It's definitely a lot of work in the early phases, and then the work changes over time as you start to hire more people. And you can start to, if you don't like doing sales, you can hire somebody to start doing sales when your business grows to that stage. And if you don't like doing marketing, you can do that as well. So it gives you flexibility. But yeah, if you're not driven and you are not passionate about building things and learning, then BMI is probably not a good fit for you.